Hey everyone, welcome back. So I actually have another video on the go about bullet journaling, but it's taken me a little bit longer than I thought it would, and I'd really like to get a video up today, and I thought this would be a good chance to talk about sourdough starter. I have my sourdough starter here. I made it in 2017. What it is a wild yeast. So back in the day before they had instant yeast and dry yeast and things like that, they had their wild yeast, and the families, they would make it and they would keep it and they would pass it down from generation to generation. And there's sourdough starters out there that are like 100 years old, which is pretty neat. And I read about that and I thought, I want to pass something like that down to my kids. Like, lots of loaves have already come out of this starter. I made it in 2017, like I said. So that's what my motivation for doing this was. And then when I started to make the sourdough, it was a long process. It was probably 6 months before I made anything that was passable as bread. And it was edible, but it just, like, some of them were so flat, it was like a dinner plate. It was terrible. So I want to take those 6 months out of your sourdough journey and get you with some delicious sourdough bread in a couple weeks. That's one thing you should know doing this process. It is a commitment. You make your starter, you need to be there every day, so make sure that you're going to be home every day when you start this. And then at that point, once it gets active and living, you put it into your fridge, and you do need to feed it once every 1 to 3 weeks. 1 to 3 weeks. Once every 1.5 weeks. I did read that you can freeze it as well, so if you ever want to pause this, you take your starter and you smear it on like a wooden cutting board, and you put it in the freezer, and then the flakes that come off, that is what you can put in a bag, and then that will last for 3 months. So you can start this, and there are ways to pause it, but it is a commitment. It's not hard. I'm here to tell you the steps and when to do them. I think that people, they get ahead of themselves, so they get impatient and think that things should be happening, when really they just have to wait for the next step in the game. So that's, again, what I'm here for. If I'm ever unclear with anything, you guys need to tell me, and I will keep making the videos too. I really like doing this. I really enjoy myself. I really want to spread knowledge for everybody that wants to listen. So yeah, let's get down to it. I am going to change the angle of the camera. Oh, I will show you my starter here. I just get all my jars from a Value Village or just some secondhand place. This is written in chalk, so I can wipe it off every week and remind myself when I need to feed it next. And then in permanent marker, I just put the life of the starter behind it, just so I don't forget things like July 2017 and whatnot. Okay. For you at home, what you need to do is get a container. It does not have to be this mason jar. It can be like an empty plastic container that you have, and then just put like a wet cloth over top. That's all it has to be right now. You do not need to spend a ton of money to figure out if you like doing something or not. This is something that you can do right now, today, in your home, as long as you have flour and water and the container. So and I should say, getting a scale is a good idea for this. Having the equal parts, I weigh them in grams. So I do, at the feeding stage right now, I'll do 50 grams of water and 50 grams of flour after I take a little bit out. At my stage, I have to dump some because the reactions that are happening in there, they're running out of the food. And so essentially it's dying, and you have to take part of it away before you add new life again. What you're doing is you mix your mixture and you leave it on the counter so that the bacteria and the wild yeast all have a chance to grow. It needs those 7 days. I like the 7 days, like I said, but I think you can get away with 5. I've heard of some people who can do 3 as well. I prefer the 7 because it makes the bubbles happen, and that's what you need. So yeah, do it for 7 days, and then at that point you can stick it in the fridge. You can find a mason jar, a cheap one at Value Village if you want, or whatever you have at home. Even a Tupperware container with a lid, not a big deal. Just put it in the fridge, put a little sticky note on it, paper and pen, it doesn't even matter, and tape, you know, you don't have to go all out. So let's get to it. Okay, this is my starter, and I just opened it up. And it's actually still doing pretty dang good. It needs to be fed, but the bubbles are still there even after a week and a half. So that's a healthy starter, if that helps at all. Let me just stir it here for a bit. It's a nice texture still. Just like dough really, but just a bit runnier. And yeah, so I'm gotta throw a little bit of this out because like I said, it's dying right now. And now, there's that. Some of it's thrown out. I do like to scrape the sides down a little bit at this point, just so it stays clean. Sometimes if you're not careful and you do a lot of, loaves of bread, the starter just sort of, with no fault of its own, starts to creep out of the container you put it in. Now, wipe this off so it dries in time for me to write the new date on. And let's get the measurements going. I already have it set on grams. Put the bowl on first and then zero it out so you have the proper measurement. This is my flour. Let me just get a spoon. And I'm going to measure out, oh, can you see the numbers? Yeah. So we got, I'm going to do 50 and 50. Or I should have did the water first, actually. Make a note of that at home. Put the water in first, because if you put too much water in, then you can just take it out. Oh, this is actually a lot. But it'll be good. When you have it in the fridge, anytime you want to start a new loaf, you take your starter out of the fridge the night before and you do this process. And instead of putting it back into the fridge, you leave it on the counter so that the bubbles have a chance to come back. They sort of just get inactive. They're still there, but it just happens at a slower process and in the fridge, and essentially the bubbles are quite a bit smaller. So if you leave them on the counter like that, it gives them the chance to puff up. So now let's just see if I can get 100 grams in here without getting too much. Dun, 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 dun. Oh. Can she do it? Can she do it? Oh, that's okay though. It's not that basic of an art. 1 gram off is not going to be, the worst thing in the world. So yeah, you just mix this up, make it nice and doughy. And then put it in there. And that's about the size of it. Now at this point, I mix up everything in here together. And I'm gonna see if I can make that time-lapse video for you guys so you can see the bubbles forming, because that is what you need to see in order to make a good starter. And that happens at any stage of the game. So like I said, this is what you keep an eye out for. Yeah, oh, the lid just came off, but that's okay. That'll help me out later. And yeah, this is it. It's just a little bit thicker now. And that's how you can tell it's better. The little too thin, I mean, it was still healthy, but I just mean healthy in the sense that it's doing what it's supposed to. It still needed to get fed again. So yeah, that's what we got going on.
This one's dedicated to all the haters out there. Jealous of us because we're better than you. Yolandi Fussa, bling the spars.
You must person of a space star. You must person of a space star.
So if you like what you've seen here today, I want to know about it. I want to hear your success stories. I want to hear your not so successful stories, because maybe I can still help. I do know a lot about this stuff now. And I won't know unless you tell me. And you should know that is how I prioritize my videos. I want to make what you want to see. And if I don't know what you want to see, then I can't make that. And it is a commitment that I made to all of you to impart the knowledge that I have as clearly and concisely as possible. But I need your help with that as well, because if you're not understanding something and I don't know, then I'm just going to carry on. But I don't want that. I want to help. I want to be here. I want to be here for you. So, and also with that being said, thank you so much, everybody who has been so encouraging and so supportive. I have over 10 hours now on my channel, and I am almost at 30 subscribers, which is more than I thought I would get at this point. And I watch the stats go up daily, and it's just so exciting because these are my goals and my dreams. I want to be able to do this full time and just be a better person. And yeah, so I just thank you so much for the shares, the likes, the subscribes, the talking about my channel. It's just been really, I just feel blessed, to be honest. It's just really, really exciting. So thank you, and don't forget, everybody makes mistakes. What matters is what you do after. So bye, everybody.